Yeah, so sorry for this slight delay just because of a technical glitch. I don't know why I wasn't able to get the screen sharing option eventually. Uh, in fact, yesterday I saw that Google has also changed some user interface and some options to the Gmail as well. So, coming back to our discussion, what we have is like, sorry. Yeah, so some of the topics we have already covered, and today we will take discussion forward. In the last class, as you saw that we were talking about this verification, validation, and other stuff. We also talked about behaviors, correctness, and let's quickly glance through some of the things which we already discussed, and that is definitely a part of it. Where we were looking for principles of testing, where we said that okay, it's good to find the defect before the customers are going to find them, and then we had this option of testing the test first, because see, it's always good to test it before sharing it with the clients, because uh, the clients, if they come back with the reports that okay, the product which you have provided is something which is a faulty one, so that does not bring any uh, that does not bring any good image in front of the entire market, where we would be catering to a number of clients. So in that case also, it's better to test the test first, and then we need to also understand that why we need to test the test, right? Because I need to find the reason behind the test uh, to be performed. There should be a rationale behind the testing technique which we are going to apply, right? So we need to have some reasons in order to back this particular point. Now, next one is your defect prevention and detection. So we already had a good amount of discussion on defect management, right? I hope if someone can quickly uh, give the basic idea about defect management, so that would be good for the rest of the class. Any idea about defect management? We had a good amount of discussion on this as well. Defect management. So in our last class, we were talking about this particular thing. Any idea? Someone was about to say something. Yeah, Shivam, probably. I think you are planning to say something. No?
So
Recall
the
the discussion
process of
we. Yeah, yeah, Shivam, go ahead, go ahead.
managing the defect in order to prevent and resolve the defect. So basically, there are five major steps in this. First one is the prevention. Second is discovery. There is reporting. Fourth, resolving. Fifth is prediction.
Right, right. So let's quickly. I'll Shivam has very correctly explained all the things. Like we said, it's better to prevent it. It's better to detect it, report it, and if suppose I'm able to report it, I have to communicate it as well. So all those factors we've already talked about. So this particular topic is well taken. Now, then we need to check the immunity of the software application. The reason why I'm saying this is because in that case, some of the softwares becomes immune to the test cases which we fire, right? So we'll see this particular thing with the help of an example. So it would be good if we do take care of the immunity of the software application, so that would be like it's good to uh, keep on changing the test data which we are going to file. That particular part will take care of in a sense. And yeah, so there is something which is new. So these are some of the facts, and we'll also talk about some of the myths. Right. So this fact says that testing is, one of the most difficult job to staff. The reason being, lot many people shift their careers, right? So in fact, in IT sector, if you see people, switching companies after companies, that retention rate is comparatively lower as compared to any other industry. So that's something which is also a major cause of concern. Now, in the field of testing, it is even more difficult to retain the people, right? Because as I said, they gain experience, they switch to some other company. So that kind of setup is always there. But in addition to this, what we have is, yeah, testing is extremely important for quality, right? We had a discussion on it, that we said that okay, we are looking for quality. For that sense, I need to test a product thoroughly so that I can come up with a quality software product. Now, then we have like your testing presents your excellent business opportunities, especially for India. The reason being, uh, most of the companies, we rely on the US companies. They rely on outsourcing, right? And the best place they get the engineers, test engineers, developers is the Indian market. So, especially in case of your looking for the business opportunity, this is something which is very lucrative area. And in addition to this, in fact, what happens is that there are companies uh, who are dedicatedly working for testing the products only, right? That means the aim is to test the products only, not to develop. So there are like third party vendors where the ultimate aim is to go ahead with testing the products. So another fact is like your testing is something which is not happening at the end, but it is happening throughout a product's life cycle. And obviously, it is beyond release as well. Your software development, right? In previous lectures, we saw the software development as part as well. So your development starts with software requirement specification. Now, this SRS document is also validated, right? So that means right from the very first step to the end, we also go for something called as, we'll study this particular part, deployment testing, right? We also go for something which is called as deployment testing. So that is also once again something where what we say is that at the time of deployment, it can be on-site deployment or off-site deployment, that depends. We'll also talk about this thoroughly in the later stage of this course. So there also, what we do is like at the deployment, during the deployment phase we test it. And even this beyond a release, what we do is that we test it. That means your regression testing will come into picture here. Right. That would can be due to, once we have released the product, the end customer identifies that there are some issues with the product, so end customer is going to report us, or else the possibility would be like the end customer or the end client may ask for some of the uh, you know modifications or updations or maybe some extra functionalities are required. So what the developer does is that what they do is they'll take care of the development part where updation will take place. Now, in order to ensure that whatever has been developed has no adverse impact on the overall development or the overall product functioning. So in that case also, I need to ensure that the changes which we have made has not brought any adverse impact on the functioning. So once again, to ensure it, we go for testing, and that particular testing is called as your regression testing. So obviously that is done post deployment. So that is also one of the things that even beyond the release, I will be testing my product. I'll be testing my product. Now, yes, obviously we can have some efforts to ease testing, and for that sake, what we do is like we promote the use of automation tools. We'll see couple of tools. We'll see the working of some of the tools, and then we'll be able to observe that there are some of the things which the normal human intervention cannot work, because anyways it's like if suppose I have to, let's say, talk about availability. In that case, what we'll say is, and what we would prefer to have will be like let the application, right, let the application be available. Application means the one which we are testing and one which we have uh, provided to our client. So we'll see that, okay, let this and let's say this application is the app software for an ATM machine. Now what we want is that this ATM machine should work 24 cross 7 for a period of 7 days at least. There should not be there should be zero downtime. Afterwards we can have like 20 minutes, 30 minutes downtime for updation or maybe for any reasons. So I cannot ask, people to sit for 24 cross 7 days to test the availability factor of a particular product. In that case it would be like it's something which is next to impossible, right? That is something which is impossible, right? Sorry. So in that way, I would prefer to have a tool which is continuously pumping the data for this much duration, and then we can take a call on the quality of the product, right? So this that is why lot amount of efforts are given to use the tools and to develop the tools, because uh, coming up with a software tool is also software testing tools is also very tricky part. Then in order to reduce the development time, what we expect is that we can stress on the parallelism between your development and testing, right? So that would, what it will do is that would reduce the development time, and if suppose I'm able to reduce the overall development time, then definitely I'm able to save some money. And obviously I would expect to come up with some profit from a particular business, right? So for that sake, I'll definitely go ahead with this. Now, there are some myths associated with software testing. So these myths are like there isn't any career path in testing, which is like totally myth because you start your career with uh, you know a trainee, then a tester, then you become a test manager, and you also then look for software entire software architecture and other stuff. So this is something which is like totally a myth. And then what we say is that testing has no variant. Right, with the help of an example, I'll prove it that definitely testing is something which is very, very lucrative. Right, testing is something which is very lucrative. Now, no variant means that it is something which is monotonous, but that's not the case. Right, that's not the case. It has huge variety. We'll try to have a look on this particular point once again in the next slide. Sorry. Now this particular slide talks about that whether your development and testing are actually very different. So with the help of this, we'll be able to identify that whether there is some difference or not. So in case of your development, which is on your left hand side, what I have is I have like requirement specification. Right, we go for that very first stage, which is SRS documentation. And in case of testing, what we have is something which is called as your test specification. So both the things, sorry, both the things in some sense are equivalent. Here also we are going for documentation part. Here also we are going for a documentation part. Right. The purpose might be a bit different, but yes, in both the cases we are going ahead with this kind of strategy. Next is in case of software development, we go for architectural level design and then we come up with the detailed design documents. The same thing is almost somewhat similar thing is done in case of testing where we have like some test strategies and there what we are doing is like we are coming up with some amount of planning as we were doing in architecture and design. Here also we even test case designing can also be added here. Right, so test case design part will be added to this, so almost similar to what we have in this case. In case of overall software development, we have like something which is your programming. So there what we have is like we go ahead with coding portion, right? In case of testing, what we do is we write the scripts, right? We write the scripts for if suppose some any tools are not available, then we write the script. Then if suppose let's say there are tools which are available, but in those tools also I need to write some amount of scripts because the tools are like needs to be customized based on our software, our need and our requirements. Then on this side what we have is we have code maintenance, right? So what we do is like we go ahead for maintaining the code post deployment in the maintenance phase, and on this side we go for test maintenance, right? So that means I'll be bringing some changes to the data sets which we are going to fire, because we already studied that our application might get immune to the test data which we fire. So I need to maintain that particular part as well, even if suppose some amount of maintenance took place in the product side. So definitely I need to bring some changes in the testing side as well, because some features might be new, some features might be expecting different kind of inputs. There will be a different transactional flow. There will be a different, possibly there might be sometimes a totally different business logic as well, right? For example, let's say previously your bank interest, right, was, let's say, 4%. These days it is like 3% to 3.5%. So what happened was, like, this was due to some policies, right? RBI policies and other banking policies. So it resulted was that the banking applications were modified. So if the banking applications were modified, and these are like very crucial applications dealing with financial transactions, so obviously I need to bring some changes, because if suppose we talk about maintenance, sorry, testing. So previously 4 was something which was valid for giving the interest rate, but now 4 is something which is not valid. We are left with 3 and 3.5 only. So I need to bring some changes to the data set which we are firing. On top of it, in case of development, we have certain umbrella activities, and these umbrella activities can be anything related to the development part. Similarly, in case of testing, also we can have some umbrella activities that can also be a part of your overall development. Sorry, overall testing. Now, these are some of the points which we need to give, which we need to ponder, right? So what we have is like, we need to test the tests first, right? We had a minor discussion on this particular part as well, that it is expected that I need to test the tests first. That means the data which we are firing, that should be tested. Now, why it is said so? The reason being, let's say I have a simple application, right? I have a simple application which is for a scientific calculator. Let's say that product is for a scientific calculator. Now, if I'm giving image and as an input, that is the test data, then totally it is wrong. So whatever I'm doing is incorrect, right? Similarly, if suppose I am continuously firing some data, so many times my application becomes immune to that particular data, right? So I need to keep on revising it. So even like I'll take a very famous doctor's paradox for testing the test first, right? So what happens? A person goes to a doctor, right? A person goes to a doctor, and now the problem was that this doctor was nothing but known but an audiologist. Okay, Vinay, what is audiologist? What is audiologist? I hope you guys are here only. Any idea? I hope you guys are here only. Yes or no? That means you people have simply switched on your devices and left for some other tasks.
Yes, sir, we are here. I thought you have seen the chat.
Oh, wait. Sorry. Okay, so my question remains the same.
Deals with the audio problems.
Yeah, the one who takes, I mean, who looks for your hearing related issues, right? Now, a person goes to an audiologist, right? And now, what happens is that this audiologist asks the person to stand at a distance of 10 feet and asks the patient, "What is your name?" Now, patient says, "My name is XYZ." Right. Now, doctor gets an impression that there are some issues. So, doctor says, now, I mean, initially the patient was at a distance of 30 feet. Now, the doctor says, "Can you come a bit closer at a distance of 20 feet?" So, the patient comes at a distance of 20 feet and asks, "What's your name?" Patient says, once again, "I'm XYZ." Now, doctor says there are some issues once again. So, now the doctor says, "Can you come at a distance of 10 feet now?" And then asks, "What is your name?" This time, patient gets furious and says, "I'm repeating continuously, my name is XYZ." Right. So that means from 30 feet to 20 feet to 10 feet. Now, the patient gets furious and says, "I'm saying continuously, my name is XYZ." So the problem was that the audiologist, sorry, some technical issues are arising at my end. This PPT is not behaving properly. Yeah. So from 30 feet, the patient says XYZ, 20 feet XYZ. At 10 feet, patient gets furious and says XYZ. I'm saying continuously it's XYZ. So the problem was with the audiologist himself that he had issues in hearing. Right. He had some hearing issues, not the patient. Patient was perfectly fine. So sometimes it's good to test the tests first, just because it's like the case of audiologist where everything was fine, but the issue itself was with audiologist himself. Second one is like constantly revise the test first. So here also we can take a farmer's paradox. Farmer's paradox is like very popular paradox. I'll quickly take 2 minutes to explain it. It's like every season, the farmers in every season or two, farmers change the kind of pesticides they use for their crops. The reason being, the reason being, because these pests become immune to the kind of pesticides farmers uses. Right. So it's always good. That's why farmers keep on revising their kind of pesticides which they use. Now, the point which I am trying to say is that similarly, my application, software application becomes immune. So, there also, I continuously need to revise the tests. So, testing needs revision, test strategies need revision, test data needs improvement. Yeah, so this is the graph which I've introduced once again. So this is like the effect of defects on the software applications, right? Early requirement, it becomes 10 times. Design, it increases further, and post release, it's like somewhere close to 1,000 times. So that costly affair it becomes if suppose the there are some errors, and we have passed on the products with the errors to the end users. Because see, at the end, end user will say that I need a quality application. For that sake, one has to take a call on that whatever product I have supplied, that needs to be error free. Yeah, so these are some of the testing types. I have added it for reading purposes because there are like more than 100 plus testing categories, and we'll be focusing on main few, and it's like main ones are highlighted in this color, which is like acceptance, ad hoc. Obviously your agile, active, accessibility, age testing are obviously important. Alpha testing is another name which we'll be addressing. API testing, all PS testing, automated testing we'll definitely look into, and beta testing is also one of the name given, and it's like many times you see the beta testing is going on. Sorry, some technical glitches with, I'm struggling with this presentation today. I think this application needs an update. This is not letting me to reduce the size even. And yeah, luckily. Yeah, so we have like, sorry for this glitch. We have some more testing like benchmark testing, Big Bang integration. This we are going to talk about. Then we have like boundary value testing, a very important one. We are going to focus on this. The next topic will be this only, boundary value testing. Then bottom up, obviously bottom up integration we'll talk about. Black box we will definitely look into. Then we have like compatibility testing. Yes, we are going to talk about this as well. We will talk about compliance testing as well, and then we have like concurrency testing. Yes, conformance. Yes, context driven not required, and decision coverage. Yes, we will be focusing on this as well, and we'll talk about dynamic testing, we'll talk about domain testing, we'll talk about error handling end to end, and then Like these, see, many of these testings are just to give you an idea. Okay, this thing is something which exists, nothing more, not more than that, because we know that it is something which is happening, and that's something which is pretty much possible as well. Then yes, verification testing, functional testing. We are going to go ahead with this. Gorilla will have a look on this gray box as somewhat similar to the things which we are going to study. Glass box, obviously nothing but a white box testing only, but a different name given to it. Graphical user interface testing, yes. Globalization, yes. We are going to talk about this. Integration interface, yes. Internationalization, yes. And load, obviously. Localization testing, yes. And yeah. So, negative testing, yes. Non-functional testing, obviously, yes. And then what we have is like we have pair testing. So all these testing, regression and security, obviously, and these are close to like 100 testing techniques which I've listed. And this is once again I would say it is for the reading purpose only, just to get an idea, because some of the tests, yeah, this unit testing we are going to cover. User interface, yes. So this is just to give you an idea that okay, these things do exist. Then on top of it, we have like usability, volume, vulnerability, white box, yes, definitely, and the workflow. So these are some of the things which we are going to cover in this part. Now, next is today. Now we are going to talk about these testing techniques, right? We'll start with black box testing, right? It's So basically what we are going to do is most of the techniques will fall under these two umbrellas only, either black box or white box. That kind of approach we will be following, that these things following in this category only. Now, these are some of the different types of skills which are required for the testing. If suppose I talk about white box testing, so I need to have the idea about the programming language. The reason being, I'll be looking into the code. I'll be dealing with the code. I'll not deal with the directly with the executables. So, keeping that thing in mind, it's like definitely we need to have the idea about the programming language in which that particular product is coded, right? The programming language in which that particular product is coded. For black box testing, I need to have the module functionality, idea about the module functionality. That means the purpose of the module which is under test. Now, next is the integration testing, where we talk about module interrelationship, right? So there we look into, if suppose there are two components, let's say C1 and C2, and there is an interface I. So I need to test this interface I. There we'll talk about stubs and drivers and other stuffs. Any idea about stubs and drivers? Any idea about stubs and drivers? Okay, no issues, no issues. Uh, we'll then look into stubs and drivers. What actually happens is, if suppose I have like a product which has like two components, let's say, uh, or three components. Now let's initially at this stage let's talk about two components, C1 and C2. Now these two components are interrelated. Now I have, and this is forming the entire product C. Now this, what it is doing is like C1 and C2 are interrelated, and I have to test this entire product C, which is comprising of C1 and C2. Now this C2 is not ready, but C1 is ready. In that case, we'll come up with a dummy C2, right? We'll come up with the dummy C2, what it is, how it works. We'll talk about that when we look into the stubs and drivers. Uh, Basically, stubs and drivers is also covered when we talk about your in probably in computer architecture, uh, cohesion and coupling. Right. When this particular topic is covered, also also your stubs and drivers, stubs and drivers are covered. Then, in case of your system testing, it is nothing but a real life deployment. And in case of your performance testing, what we do is we look for response time. So, in this, what we'll do is we'll see some calculations with the help of your least square approximation, you can say, right? That particular part is done. Now, regression testing, right? If suppose some functionality is changed and it is managed, then we go ahead with regression testing. And the next part is your ad hoc testing. So that is dealing with the domain knowledge, because we need to have the idea about the business verticals. We need to have the idea about the business logic. For example, let's say I have no idea about, let's say, accountancy, and I have to test a software product which is there for helping the accountants, right? So, in that case, if I don't have the domain knowledge, I'll not be the right person to test the products, right? I may not be the right person to test the products because I have no clue, right? Even in, let's say, if suppose there is a product on inventory management, and I don't know about how the procurement is done, how the recording is done, how the auditing is done, and in that case, I'll not be able to come up with an application for inventory management, right? So, for that sake, also, I need to have the domain knowledge. Yeah. Now, to start with, what we have is we have like black box testing, and so what we'll do is like today, just because of these technical glitches, we will not be in a position to cover this particular topic in another 20 minutes. So, what we'll do is we'll start this thing because I want that this should start and finish in one go. Then we'll solve some problems on it. That means the entire discussion starts and ends in a single class. So, we'll take this topic in our next class, and you can in fact ask your friends also to be available in the next class, and because that would be something which will be very crucial, right? And this topic is something which is very important. So, because all your numericals for your midterm or probably at the end term or any quizzes will definitely rely on these kind of testing approaches. So, I would, you know, request you to ask your friends to be available in the next class so that in one go we'll finish the entire discussions. So that's all from my side for today's class. Let me know if you have any questions so that we can have a discussion. We have like 20 minutes. We can have a discussion if you have any doubts on the topics which we have studied just now or any previous topic of your choice. Any doubts? Okay, okay. So Shivam was very quick to say no, right? Fine. Uh, Fine. Then we'll meet on Tuesday. Then Tuesday with uh, a very good class strength, I would expect, and then we are going to finish that particular topic. See you then. See you. Bye bye.